Okay, hello YouTube. I am working on a project in shapes. I'm working on a make anything machine right here, ma'am. Basically, it like the name says, it's to make any shape in the game. I have currently what you're looking at right now. This giant machine makes the bottom layer of any shape, so it can make like this layer, for example. But it can't do multiple layers, and so it's a work in progress. But I'm just gonna go through a couple. I'm gonna go through what I've built so far and explain them a little bit, and just show you what I built. Okay, so first thing is that just to explain a little bit on what you're even looking at. These bottom four squares right here are painters, so it's just painting a shape. These top three are stackers. It's just stacking those shapes on top of each other. And then these bottom four like blobs right here are the resources where you get everything. So there's going to be a lot of repetition, obviously, uh, but basically each quadrant is split up into one of these like little areas. But yeah, so let's get into the resources. So down here, basically what I'm using is I'm using a shape that has one of each shape on it, a windmill, a star, a rectangle, and a circle. I'm cutting that up into fourths, and I'm sorting them in this whole like array right there. It goes in here. This area right here, this filter is trying to basically, if any of these storage units are full, it starts to switch the track to the trash can to make room. It doesn't work that well, but that's a work in progress. Um, and yeah, and so you're gonna see this with the colors as well. But here, you just have these filters that are connected to wires, and it's just going to allow one of the four shapes, whichever one we need, to go onto these four belts, and then it plugs into the painter. This quadrant right here, I didn't explain, is actually the bottom left one, so it's this guy right there, and then it kind of goes on. This is top left, this is bottom right, top right. Anyways, yeah, so the colors look similar. Here it is. These are all just coming from farms just way out in the distance. But yep, it chooses one of the colors. Like I said, it's the bottom left, so it needs blue. So it plugs in here, and then it goes in and it does that. And yeah, so that's basically what I've got for the resources. Okay, on to the next part. Here are one of the painter modules. It's pretty standard design, I think so. Basically, how it works is it's taking these four belt inputs, it's splitting them into eight, and then it splits them even more, obviously to connect into the painters. But that's just kind of all what these belts are doing, and these tunnels is it just splitting them up into smaller and smaller fractions, and then they finally plug in and it produces, yeah, and so it produces around like the max input or the max rate of flow. Sometimes there can be a little bit of like clogging and stuff, but overall it's pretty strong. But the important thing here I think is right down here, this filter system. Basically what's going on here is if it is not a not colored piece, if it's a gray shape, it obviously, if it goes into the painter, it gets stuck because you can't paint it gray. It's already gray. And so what happens is, if that's the case, it flips a switch, and then these go on this right track right here, and it plugs into this output belt right here. And then another thing with these filters, well, one, here's a filter and here's a filter. That's just to make sure that only one of these are plugging in to this belt at this line at a time, just so that there's not a lot of clogging, obviously, because it's four and four plugging into four. So if they're both running, it would get clogged. And then this belt right here, you're going to see it a lot. Basically, what's going on is it's just if it's comparing the shape that's supposed to be, so this top right, this quarter circle right here, and if it's not that, then it goes in the trash, and it's just to help with nothing getting clogged or messed up. And yeah, so that is then repeated four times, and let's go on to the stackers. So here's a broader look of it, but there's the bottom painter, and here's the stacker on top, like I said. And so when we zoom in, here are the two inputs. It's a pretty similar design to like a painter, where I said it's just taking these four belts and splitting up into smaller and smaller fractions. So it's and then plugging them into the stacker, and it produces the max flow rate, so it's all good there. And but the interesting thing is how I dealt with what if the quadrant was totally empty. So not if it was gray, but if there was just no shape in there in general. And so basically what happens is a signal is sent to the opposite painter. So if this quadrant was empty, this square quadrant was empty right here, then it would send a signal to this belt, and then it would change the direction, and these guys would go over there, and then plug into the final output, right? So they don't go into the stacker because obviously this quadrant's empty, and vice versa. And so that's to avoid them getting stuck in the stacker. Um, and yeah, that is again another one of those to prevent any wrong shapes coming out. And then the exact same thing is happening on the other side. Right here, see the two painters in a stacker. And here's that filter system. And then here's the final stacker right here. Again, pretty standard. They get plugged in, and there's the final shape. Let's see, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the wires level. So let's go look. It's kind of hard to look at, but basically what's happening is up here is the original shape, and that's being outputted onto four segments, and I'm rotating it to where each quadrant is being viewed. So basically, there it's rotated, 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 and then rotated. And so then if you can see these lines, they go to each quadrant. Then we go down here. And so this is going to be hard to look at, but I'm going to try to break it down. So here's the shape analyzer. And so this shape output, we'll go with that first, goes right here. And then in all of these segments, it's comparing the shape, or it's comparing the shape of what we want to a standard shape. So windmill, square, star, and circle. So it compares it to windmill. Obviously, it produces 0 because that's not what it is. Goes again, checks if it's a square, 0. Goes down here, checks if it's a star, 0, and then goes down here, checks if it's a circle, and that's a 1. And so that is then going to go down here and open that gate. It's clogged now because it's filled up fully, but that's what would be opened. Something I skipped over, these NOT gates. Basically what that's doing is that's helping with the case if this quadrant was entirely empty. So that would mean that if in the shape analyzer nothing would be outputted at all. And so to fix that, because the problem is you can't just plug in nothing into a gate and then expect something to work. So to kind of convert that information into something that the wires can read, the NOT is plugging to each compare. So basically what it's doing is it's checking if all four of these compares are 0, meaning that whatever is being outputted, whatever the shape analyzer is outputting, if it matches with none of the shapes, then it displays a 1 down here, because if it matches with none of the shapes, that means that nothing's in there. And so if you look, so there's a 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, but then a 0 here, right, because it matches a circle. And so it breaks this chain of ands so that it doesn't output out. And yeah, that is repeated for then all of them. Let's see. But something else that's going on at the top here is it's just creating the actual shape that we need. Down here, it's just showing like circles, windmill, that kind of thing. But here, I'm making the quarter blue circle, and then that's being plugged in over here just to check to make sure, again, like I talked about, that this is the correct, plugged in over here, I mean, this is the correct shape. And finally, the color is being plugged in down here, which same with the shape, it's just checking to see what color it is. What's nice about this is that there's the actual like thing for gray, so I don't have to go through all those ands and nuts. It can just display, if it's gray, it'll display a 1 and open that gate. Um, and yeah, that is it. I will, Tristan and Luke, if you guys are somehow still here at the end of this, for God knows why, you probably didn't understand a word of that, but this is what I've been working on for like the past like 5 days. So, yeah, I'm gonna make another video at some point, probably when I get more of this done, or if it's fully up and running, that'd be sick. But yeah, that's it.